Another perfect depiction of thalassophobia is that iconic picture of a diver standing on the edge of an underwater cliff. Below him is the dark nothingness of the deep ocean. You have to figure that there are hundreds, if not thousands of these spots around the world where some geological feature has resulted in a cliff that extends so high from the ocean floor that it's literally not visible from above. Probably the most famous of these is the Great Blue Hole in Belize, because the dark, deep water in the sinkhole creates an incredible contrast with the light, shallow water of the surrounding area. A lesser-known example of these underwater drop-offs is actually off of the coast of Vancouver Island, which is simply known as the Wall. This drop-off is just a short boat ride from the city of Nanaimo and drops almost straight down to a depth of around 500 feet. In fact, it even states in the tour site that you want to be absolutely sure that you have control of your buoyancy before getting into the water. If you make a mistake, you will plummet 500 feet into the dark ocean. From the surface, it starts a bit more like a shallow shelf that isn't too steep, but as you descend deeper, it turns into an ominous drop-off into nothing. With that said, the wall is loaded with marine life, both on the wall and in the water. It's even known to have seals and sea lions curiously swim up to divers in the water, so despite how individuals with thalassophobia might feel about it, it is still a popular dive site.
Want to have a side hustle bringing you an additional income stream, but you don't want to have to build websites or funnels or create videos or learn how to master paid advertising?
Okay,
In October,
I don't know what the hell that shit was about, but easy money is short money. I don't give a fuck. You want to know a super easy way to make money where you really don't have to try? Like, yeah, that's not real, bro, unless you already have a lot of fucking money. And unless it's some criminal shit, again, which is short money. All the drug money I made, I ain't got none of it no more. So shut up, bro. I don't want your fucking program. I don't want to buy your shit. Leave me alone.
October of 2013, 3 men planned to complete a technical dive of the wall to explore some of the deeper sections. Technical diving differs from recreational diving because it generally exceeds a certain depth and requires special training and equipment. And because of the depth, divers have to use a gas mixture different than regular air to ensure they don't suffer from something called nitrogen narcosis.
Here we go.
This is usually a trimix of nitrogen, helium, and oxygen, which are mixed together in different ratios depending on the depth. This means that you need to ensure that you have the right mixture, otherwise you might pass out or suffer from several other ill effects. For their dive, they intended on getting to around 200 feet or 60 meters or so to check out the sea life. About 12 minutes into their dive, they were already down to this depth when suddenly one of the men lost consciousness and started an uncontrolled descent down the wall. His dive partner frantically swam after him and caught up to him at about 250 feet. He desperately tried to revive the man, but after being unable to, either due to shock or some other technical mistake, he made a rapid, uncontrolled ascent. This is another huge mistake, because when doing deep dives like this, you have to ascend slowly based on the time and depth of the dive. If this is done too rapidly, the dissolved gases in the blood don't emerge slowly and safely. They form bubbles inside of your tissue and vascular system. This can range from minor decompression sickness to the worst case scenario where these bubbles can completely block veins and arteries.
See, man, that's why I said, you know what I'm saying? We not made for that shit. Now, obviously, we've learned the science, but that makes it even more scary. Like, my dude did an uncontrollable descent, and it's like you get down there, you running out of air, you running out of breath, but, you know, we got to swim up really slowly or else, you know, like air bubbles will basically explode us from inside. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, scary shit.
This condition, known as arterial gas embolism, can lead to stroke and heart attack if these bubbles travel to the vessels in your heart and brain. So by the time the man surfaced from the water, he had gone into complete heart failure from the extensive gas embolism in his heart and brain. The third man surfaced a little while later without issue, but unfortunately, it was already too late. Authorities were notified and a search was launched for the final man who was still in the water. Eventually, he was found 2 days later and it was determined that he had lost consciousness due to oxygen toxicity and nitrogen narcosis. His body was recovered from the depth of 250 feet. A man named Tom and a woman named Eileen both attended the University of Louisiana in the late 1980s. Upon meeting one another, they almost immediately hit it off and would even go on to get married before finishing school. From then on, friends and family would say the pair were completely in love. Friends and family would also describe them as idealistic, and this idealism would cause them to eventually go on to join the Peace Corps. This organization is a group of volunteer individuals who travel to various impoverished countries and participate in humanitarian causes. Their 2-year tour took them to the islands of Fiji and Tuvalu in the South Pacific, and at the end of their tour, now 10 years into their marriage, they decided they would go and visit the Great Barrier Reef. Not only was it something they had always wanted to see, it was right near where they were stationed. In addition, when they first met, Eileen was already a passionate scuba diver and introduced Tom to the activity. From then on, both of them loved to go scuba diving together, and what better place to go scuba diving than the Great Barrier Reef? This massive reef is comprised of almost 3,000 individual sections and stretches for 2,300 kilometers off of the coast of Australia. Not only is it the largest reef on Earth, but it's also so large that it can be seen from outer space. It's actually the single largest structure made by a living organism. It's also home to an incredibly diverse ecosystem that thrives in the beautifully colorful structure. This makes it an incredible sight to behold and why it's so popular with scuba divers. There are very few other places that offer scuba diving quite like the Barrier Reef. So, in January of 1998, the couple arrived in Australia at Port Douglas to embark on their scuba diving adventure. They found an excursion that would take 26 passengers 40 kilometers off the Queensland coast to a section known as St. Crispin's Reef. This is one of the many subdivisions of the larger structure. Although it is a decent distance away from the shore, expeditions frequently take tourists to this area to experience the magnificent diving. When they arrived at the dive site, Tom and Eileen slipped into their scuba gear and hopped into the beautiful blue water of the Coral Sea. A little while later, all 26 passengers reboarded the boat, as was confirmed by a head count, and then the boat returned to Port Douglas. Except, when the crew was doing the head count, 2 passengers jumped into the water and then re-entered the boat. This threw off the count and meant that they were actually short 2 passengers. A little while after entering the water, Tom and Eileen resurfaced to the vast expanse of the ocean, with the boat nowhere in sight. They were even far enough from land that they couldn't see the shore, let alone swim to it if they knew its direction. This is when they would have come to the horrifying realization that they were stranded in the ocean. Another thing about this area off of the coast of Australia is that it's known for its massive 5-meter-long tiger sharks.
Man, fuck that.
All of the fish and other sea life are the perfect feeding ground for these large predators. Not to mention the fact that Tom and Eileen had no food or water and no way of contacting anyone for help. 2 days later, the captain of the expedition boat was cleaning out some of the leftover belongings and found 2 bags. In the bags were the wallets and passports of Tom and Eileen.
2 days later.
Upon finding these, he must have realized that they have gotten off the boat on land. They would have quickly returned to get these important items. So if they hadn't come to get them, they must have been left stranded in the ocean. He immediately contacted the police, and then a massive search was launched by the Australian Navy, including flyovers by planes and helicopters. Unfortunately, by the time the search was launched, it was too late, and Tom and Eileen were never seen again. 6 months later, a wetsuit washed up on the shore about 75 kilometers from Port Douglas. The wetsuit matched the same size wetsuit that Eileen would have worn, but initially, investigators couldn't assume that it was hers. Unfortunately, a little while later, more equipment was found. It included 2 inflatable dive jackets with the couple's names written on them, Eileen's fins, and her compression tanks. They also recovered a diver's slate with a message on it. On it was the date and time they had been abandoned and a plea for help. Based on the findings, investigators felt that it was unlikely that a shark attack had occurred because there was no blood found anywhere on the wetsuit. And although the wetsuit was torn, the barnacle growth on it suggests that it had been submerged since the disappearance. During that time, it may have rubbed along the coral of the reef, which then tore the material. Following this revelation, the case became an internationally publicized event. The fact that it was 2 Americans who had gone missing in another country also added to the coverage. Initially, there was some speculation that the couple may have staged it, but this was quickly ruled out because neither of their bank accounts had been touched, and their life insurance policies remained intact. The company in charge of the expeditions would also be brought up in charges, and the ensuing legal battle would lead to even more controversy.
Okay.
The company...
I've seen enough of this one, but man, yeah, see, anytime anybody ever invites me like, hey, you want to go scuba diving in the deep ocean? I'll be like, no, I don't. And see, I'm the type of person, when I say no, you better respect it. Because if I have to keep telling you no, I'm going to get mad. You feel me? So, no. But man, that's yeah, nah, I ain't going to sit here and argue with you about fucking, you can call me a pussy, you can call me all or whatever the hell you want. I am not going deep diving with your ass in the deep open ocean. Fuck all of that.